welcome one and all to Impolite Company on the GCPR.live network, the show that we do what we say in society we're not supposed to do. We talk about religion and politics. I'm your host, Matthew Best. Together, we walk through honest dialogue, explore messy truths, and try to see the humanity and perspectives that are different from our own. And if you have a thought or a question or something you want to challenge, you can email me at contactimpolitecompany@gmail.com. Don't forget that you can subscribe to past and future episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Impolite Company. And if you want to dig deeper into some of the themes that we explore here, you can visit my blog at pastormatthewbest.com. And if you want to support what we do, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/impolite company. So let's get into today's conversation. I've been looking forward to this conversation. I have with me a special guest, Angela Miller. Angela, thanks so much for being here today.
Oh, you're very welcome. I've been
And
looking forward to it as well.
yeah, so Angela, why don't you introduce yourself? I'm giving you an opportunity to introduce yourself, and then we'll talk about what the topic is that we're going to be talking about.
Sure. Um, so for me, I'd say the most defining role in my life is being a mom. It's the thing that grew me up the most in the world, but to pay the bills, I work in healthcare, IT. Got to do that too.
Yeah.
I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania with the largest extended family. Didn't really appreciate them at the time. I really wanted nothing more than to bust out and go to the big city. Um, that never happened, but my consolation prize was a college family that I visit in the Big Apple as much as I can. Christianity is my tribe, various doors. I'm a lover of books, real paper books. Um,
Good.
and and the first time I heard the phrase pajama philosopher, that made me roar, and I can totally relate to that.
That's good. All right. Oh, that's a great introduction, by the way.
Thanks. I think it's always helpful to have a little bit of this is who
Yeah,
I see myself as.
yeah. No, I get that. So the topic that we're going to be talking about today is about Charlie Kirk. And I had put out a message. I put it out into the interwebs, saying, "Hey, I want to have a conversation with somebody who has I don't know, I don't remember the exact phrasing that I put, so forgive me in that. I want to have a conversation with someone who has a positive view of Charlie Kirk and the work that he did and that type of thing." And it was the whole point of this, and this is what we're going to do is we're going to have this conversation. And I put specific instructions with this that the point of this is not to convince anybody of anything that I'm right, you're wrong, or anything of that nature. It's really to have a conversation, and it's to ask difficult questions as well, but not leading questions, not I gotcha questions or anything like that. It's to do what the show was really based about, which is have healthy conversations, especially about difficult topics. And so that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
And Angela, you reached out to me, and so maybe you can say, how did you hear about this plea that I put out into the internet?
Sure. Uh, so I think it was actually, on someone else's Facebook post, I saw your request, and I did step back and think about it and have to think about whether I really wanted to do it or not. But I loved the podcast title. I think that was the first thing that I love nothing more than an evening of good, lively conversation, sometimes impolite. So that was the first thing that drew me in. But then, really, the larger reason for me is I want the world that I grew up in for my kids and my grandkids. And that world for me growing up was, hosting and attending dinner parties, fireside chats, and any other excuse we could really think of to get together that revolved around good food and good conversation. And sometimes that conversation got loud and heated. But mostly it was friendly banter about anything. No topic was off limits. Um, Sometimes, we left and we didn't come to an agreement, but we came back the next time we got together and we were all the better for it. Um, so it's really that, I love that. I want that for my kids. And what I see as Charlie Kirk being a symbol for the good is, he embodied that, conversations we don't need to be, he talked to anybody. So
Okay, great. Thanks for that.
yeah,
And so
sure.
then you reached out to me
Hmm.
and you said, "Hey, I'm willing to do this." And you sent me an article to take a look at,
Hmm.
which was I printed it off here. It was titled "The Liberal Legacy of Charlie Kirk." And
Yes,
so
yeah,
I
yeah.
have
So
that
that
here.
was one of them. I don't know if you got, there was also a video from Bishop Barron.
Oh, I did
So,
not see that. Okay, I'm
okay, yeah,
sorry
they did
about
kind
that.
of run together, and you'll hear me reference Bishop Barron.
Sure.
So I just did want to bring that up because,
Okay. Yeah, that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
That's
So,
completely fine.
yep,
Good, good. So, how I thought we would start is, and this is not formal or anything like this, right? This is
sure,
conversational type of thing. Is to start off with a statement of your thoughts about Charlie Kirk, and I'm happy to do that as well. So I'm gonna let you go first. Like, what's your thoughts about him? And yeah, so we'll just start with that.
sure. So I would just start by saying that, I wasn't a rabid follower of
Okay.
Charlie Kirk. So he popped up in my feeds. I watched him, on occasion. I did see uh, some of his topics. I watched some of them in full. Um, After the event happened and I saw certain things clipped together in short pieces, I did go back and watch things, in the entirety. So my impression is, he might have had hundred of thousands of hours of dialogue out there that people have taken very, very small pieces of and said this represents who he was or what his ideas were. And I just find that disingenuous, because when I looked at the actual fullness of the conversations, it didn't, those little clips did not represent what was actually being said. Um, so there's that. And then the other piece for me of what he represented is a little bit personal. My daughter went to college and felt a little bit of this pressure of, her ideas weren't welcome if they weren't of a certain, if they didn't match her professors. And so I really, I didn't grow up in that environment where I went to the university. It was, all points of view were welcome for consideration. And then you poke, not all points of view were valid through debate and reason and logic, which sometimes did get heated. That's the nature of debate. So I don't see debate or confrontation and criticism is part of debate for me. So that wasn't really, um, I think that's healthy, especially in the college
Mhm.
environment. So for
Sure.
me, he represented, well, something I had in college that my daughter is saying, yeah, I didn't really feel that way. I didn't feel like I could express. Um, so I'll leave it there.
That's fine. So what I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Hmm.
is that what I heard you say is that your encounter with Charlie Kirk, not obviously on a personal
Hmm.
level, but um, you appreciate more of the fuller context as opposed
Yes.
to what you feel has been like kind of lines pulled out of context.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And that was the first part. And the second part really is on that more personal side. I heard you talk about wanting for your daughter what you had, which was the idea of open conversation and I, what if I could use the words kind of testing the truth of
Yes. Yeah.
statements?
Yeah.
Is that a
Hmm.
fair statement?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. All right. Again, this is important because I think it's important to not misrepresent. I think it's important. I have a belief, and I've said this before, that I think so much of conflict comes down to language, in the
Yeah, I
sense
would
that
agree.
oftentimes people will use. I've said it before of so many of us are speaking English, but we're speaking different languages, uh, because because of how we might define words. And so oftentimes there's assumption about what words might mean. You know, like a great example of that is like the word freedom can mean multiple different things to different folks.
Hmm.
And it's because it's the way it's been used in different ways, right? So, okay. And to be fair, I'll say what I
Sure.
what my
Yep.
thoughts.
Yep.
Um,
I'd
I
like to hear that.
Yeah, sure. I actually did a monologue show on Charlie Kirk after the assassination. Um, and first of all, assassination is wrong and political violence is bad. Just it's just always not a good thing. Um, and I had stated that I was sad for his family, for his wife, for his children, especially to not have their father is just horrible. Um, and I made the statement. I essentially argued that I think a lot of how people encountered Charlie Kirk was based on what our media silos are. I think in some ways it kind of is speaking to what you were talking about in the first idea of, you know, those that are more I don't know if you want to, whatever the terminology,
Hmm.
but more on the right would
Hmm.
get a lot of his statements regarding Christianity.
Hmm.
And then those that are on the more of the left, progressive, whatever you want to call it, would get his more controversial political statements.
Hmm.
And so then what happens is we have these two silos that aren't receiving the same information. Um, and you know, I read some of his quotes from both of those silos, in the sense of and saying, look, there's some wonderful things that he said in the Christian context,
Hmm.
and there's some things that are very troubling in the political context that for me have an issue of congruency or being incongruent between the two, and can really be a sense of harm to for some folks. So that's what that's my I don't know whatever opening statement. I don't know whatever you want to
Okay.
call
Okay. Hmm.
it. Um, so um, I'm curious about this. You
Hmm.
talked a little bit about this, but what was it that, and I don't know if I have the right words for this. What was it about him uh, that drew you to what he was talking about? Does that
Um,
make sense? First of all,
sure. What drew
okay.
me to what he was talking about? Some of the topics that came up. Again, I would clarify that I probably went back and listened to things in their entirety post him dying. When
Okay,
I saw
that's fair.
him, um, I don't, again, it was little clips here and there before
Yeah.
then, nothing in its entire. And I listened to both sides of the aisle. So,
Uh-huh.
I get feed, both ways. Um, but when I went back and looked at what he actually said in the full context, um, when I distill, and for me, I will also say this, it was words aren't, again, I go back to my fireside chats
Yeah, that's
getting,
fine. Go for it.
duking it out and
You're not
people
going to
leaving,
offend me, so don't worry.
people, someone saw it this way, someone saw it that way, and they
Yeah.
didn't, we might have exchanged words and he didn't come to my side or I didn't go to his side, but we were still friends. And that's the way. So when I saw Charlie Kirk engaging and watching in the fullness of it, that's what he did. Like he expressed his points of view, um, in truth and what he believed from his point of view. I saw some people exposed to things that I don't think they'd ever heard before. And they really were given a new way to consider things. He never forced people to. Uh, I didn't view him as dangerous or confrontational. He wasn't forceful. He was it was the microphone. It's unfortunate you didn't get to watch Bishop Barron's, but it was he died with a microphone in his hand, and the
Right.
whole
Right. Sure.
context of that was there. That's what our whole country. He was a free speech guy. Let's bounce ideas off of each other. You make your story, you make your case, I make my case. If I convince you, great. If I don't, because that's what debate is, debate. And what his platform was debate. And people chose to freely come on those college campuses. So I think they were signing up for debate. You didn't have to watch, you didn't have to attend if you didn't want to, but I think he offered a platform that I took for granted was going on in college. Um, you know, and so what drew me to him was his willingness to go out and have tough conversations. I think that's where your question
Okay.
started. Tough
Yeah, that's fair.
conversations with an audience that didn't, he knew most likely didn't agree with his views.
Okay. So what I heard is really that last statement of what drew him to you, or
Yeah.
what
Hmm.
appealed
Yeah.
about him was his willingness to debate, his willingness to have conversation.
Hmm.
I heard you really use the word debate in an
In that
environment
platform,
in that
in the Turning
platform.
Point USA, he was on a college campus. Um, the whole premise, from my understanding, again, this was post assassination, was he was there to, you know, debate people,
Yeah.
change my mind was so that was a debate platform from my
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. So you kind of answered the next question that I had, so that's fine. And feel free, you can ask me questions at any
Sure,
point too.
sure, sure.
This is not a one directional.
Yeah.
Um, so
So I guess,
go
yeah, I
ahead.
do have a question for you on,
Yeah.
so you had mentioned some of the things you found were controversial. So controversial, in, what way? How would you?
Yeah. Yeah. So what and I so my encounter with him,
Mhm.
um, I have an extensive background in politics
Okay.
before being a pastor. um, which is very interesting. And actually, I had started off in very conservative.
Okay.
I'm not registered in a political party any longer. I haven't been since 2006. Before that, I had been registered as a Republican, and I worked for a member of Congress. I worked for a state representative. I've gotten people elected, all sorts of stuff before.
Okay.
Um, so my encounter with him was not first with any type of Christian speeches.
Okay.
That's not the media silo that I ended up
Okay.
hearing him. It was always political
Mhm.
statements that he would make. I'm familiar a little bit with the Turning Point USA and
Okay.
kind of their again, going on to college campuses and the debates and I've watched some of the videos, more than just a short segment to kind of see
Okay. Hmm.
how those would work, in a variety of different settings, different conversations that he would had. And I always kind of took him as kind of a professional debater
Yes, I would
of sorts.
wholeheartedly agree with
Yeah,
that.
right.
Hmm.
Which kind of in uh, the same type of debate skill as like Ben Shapiro.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, again, not the same, but kind of like I kind of view Ben Shapiro as a professional debater
Hmm.
in that sense, right? And so there's certain methods to that, and you
Yes,
can
yes. Yeah, I
see
will say
how.
that, I actually watched Charlie's debate in Oxford.
Okay, yeah,
And I think that was one of his not best performances.
Right. And that one gets highlighted in
Yeah,
again
yeah.
in a certain media silo.
Hmm.
Uh, and I talk about it that way because I think this is also another important aspect into this is the role of these media silos.
Okay.
Um,
I think that's a great
it's and so we can see
thing we
that.
need to be aware of.
Yeah, right, and we need to be aware of, and so oftentimes it's a matter of if you want to see more, then you have to go outside of your media silo, and that's not the easiest
Yes.
thing in the world
Hmm.
to do. Um, but you asked me, sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent. I do
No.
that from time
Hmm.
to time.
Hmm.
So
Guilty.
yeah, so you asked me about the controversial statements,
Hmm.
right? That yeah. So and so I heard what you had said before about hearing in more in larger context, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I have when I hear like statements,
Hmm.
and I know that there's a larger context, and at the same time there's certain statements that are made that uh, that I just read it and I go, wow, that's a troubling statement. So let me give you an example.
Okay.
And by the way, I had a list of all sorts of wonderful and I read several. I read both the Christian statements
Okay.
that he had, and a lot of them are from his own show or from articles that he was quoted in, and those type of things. And then also the troubling political statements
Okay.
as well. So, oh, where is it here? So, like he had made a statement. Um, where is it here? I'm trying to find. This is the source was Reuters. Had quoted this. You know, his statement was the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a huge mistake. And you know, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 has had a pretty big impact on participation of African Americans in political life, uh,
Hmm.
voting rights. You know, it's an extension of the voting rights in which in certain locations there you know historically there's just been a lot of efforts to diminish the voting participation. You know, I think where's the statement?
I've heard that one, and to be honest, that's not
Yeah,
one I took the time to do the full context of.
sure, sure.
So you know, I don't know if there was anything in addition to that one or not, you
The,
know.
so the context in this came, and again, I'm pulling from what was in Reuters.
Hmm.
It was about complaints that led to, and this is a quote, a permanent DEI type bureaucracy is what. So that's the larger. They were talking about about DEI
Okay.
and the what he was talking about is the problems that creates. And so this is the statement that he made in that. Again, like another one. Again, this was Reuters. They did a profile of Charlie Kirk.
Okay.
So he had. This is probably a statement that you've probably heard, where he said, "If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified."
Hmm.
Um,
Yep, I've heard that one, and
yeah,
I'm familiar with that one.
yeah. I think the most tragic statement was the one that he made before he was shot. We were talking about gun violence,
Hmm.
and it was what did he say? He said, "Oh, I can't remember exactly. I don't have that statement right in front of me." Um, I think it was a question about our like how I don't remember exact statement. So,
Hmm.
but is this level of gun violence acceptable to maintain, the rights around the Second Amendment. Again, that's
Hmm.
not an exact quote.
Yeah.
And he had said yes, and it wasn't long after that then that he was assassinated, which I think is just, again, it's a horrible thing. And I'm like, ooh, ouch. Like, to say that and then to be the one who, like, obviously he did not have a desire for that to be his own fate. Uh,
Yeah.
so, but it's one of those things that I listen to that and I think, gosh, this is my challenge with political statements is oftentimes they end up
Hmm.
becoming this abstract statements
Hmm.
that are disembodied in a way, right? We get into uh, like just pick any issue. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's gun violence, abortion, LGBTQ, whatever the case may be. Oftentimes, what happens is we have arguments that are, in essence, very abstract. And what I mean by that is they're like tweets or they're statements that are removed from people's experiences.
Hmm.
They're removed from any type of impact that the statements have or removed from reality of what's going on, which for me, I think a lot of these things are messy and very complicated. There's not nice, easy. You can't just take, I don't know, whatever, gun violence or whatever, and just have, oh, this is the answer. Uh, Good luck with that. And it's not considering the human impact on these things. And humans, as much as we like to say we're rational creatures, we're very irrational. And we don't do necessarily the things that are rational. And so, anyway, I don't know. That was a whole lot. So, anyway,
Yeah.
did I answer your
Yeah.
question?
Yeah. And those are, certainly things that, and I do believe there's more context to at least the two of the three that I was
Sure.
familiar with that you quoted there. So I don't believe those particular statements reflect the fullness of the conversation that he was having. And regarding the last one, though, on the gun violence,
Yeah.
I think Charlie Kirk, my intuition is he would say the same thing, even having been killed by a gun. I think he was a, Second Amendment guy that believed in it, but also believed in the right to free speech. And, people should be able to debate ideas, and you don't have to agree with them, but we shouldn't resort to violence using them. But I don't think that he would argue against. And that's just my, listening to all of him that I
Yeah.
have and what I know about him.
So, so
I don't think that he would change that statement.
yeah, no, I sense you're probably right in that
So
that's
I
a
think that's a
true belief
truth that
statement.
he believed in. So,
Yeah, I would agree with that
so
statement.
yeah.
I'm curious your thoughts when people have raised these statements or other
Hmm.
similar statements, right? And
Hmm.
there's other ones that could easily be raised. And I heard what you say about uh, he believed in free speech, he believed in debating,
Hmm.
but not violence,
Hmm.
right? Um, I'm curious what if you've heard people use a criticism of these statements in the way that while these are not physical violence, they do lead to when the ideas that he's saying
Hmm.
are implemented as far as like policy or something like that, it does cause harm to people. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. and this is probably, where for me to get into this, it's going to take a philosophical difference of what we believe about,
Sure.
the nature of human beings and
Yeah, yeah.
evil and all of those things. But I would say, you know, tracing back the little things I know of Charlie and what his core beliefs were, leading to violence is it, you know, he was articulating and debating for what he believed in. So again, for me, it's a saying what he said is dangerous doesn't ring for me. It's
So why not? Let's just go ahead and I just
dangerous means
that
because
would be a good
words,
start. Yeah.
yeah, words are not dangerous for me. It's like, so if you really believe what he said is wrong, like, because Charlie really believed what he said was the truth, and
Hmm.
and I would even argue Charlie wasn't the quintessential conservative.
Sure.
He went to college and he was like, oh, this, the good conservative goes to college, puts on their suit and tie, and all that. And Charlie kind of bucked the system there, and he was like, well, they're not teaching me the things that I want to learn in college. I'm going to drop out, and I'm going to read, like, and I think he was a business major, and he's like, all of these particular economic theories that they're teaching me are one way. And I know there's a total other point of view that's not being represented. So Charlie did the work. That's, I guess, wrong. Charlie did the work. He believed in what he was saying was the truth, the moral, objective truth. And he could defend it verbally. And so if you were offended by what his idea was, you had to bring the debate and you know, your how you believed your thing was the moral objective truth, to the debate. So uh I never saw, I saw him, and I looked up a few like with LGBTQ people
Sure.
and watched him interact there. And I would say this was another thing I observed. So I think Charlie read his audience. I think there were certain people that
Sure.
he did become confrontational with,
Uh-huh.
because of what he observed about that participant. And then I also saw him interact with, um, a student that fit in that category where I think he knew like she had a difficult, she may have had a very different reasons for, where she was or what her beliefs were. And I saw him treat her with a very gentle, patient,
Sure.
kind,
Sure.
loving. So, I again, from what I observed, he argued, he backed up his arguments from what he believed and what he had read. Um, and if there's ever a place to do that, to jar
Yeah.
verbally, it's on a
Sure.
college campus.
Yeah.
I,
Sure.
I hope.
Yeah.
And again, I do think, like I said, I think that he was conscientious about certain people that, he approached different people differently. So I don't think he painted with a broad stroke.
Sure. Well, that's a pretty normal
Yeah.
human
And
thing,
well,
right?
I just think like, he's painted often as every single one was treated to this.
Sure.
And I did not observe that.
Well,
So,
would you agree with me that I think this happens with public officials, and
absolutely.
I use that term broadly,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Anybody who has a public persona, um, and this is a very American thing, and maybe it's
Hmm.
just a human thing, but it's definitely an American thing of putting people into, well, you're either this or this.
Hmm. Yeah. Mhm.
And that's pretty much where you are, and you get stuck there. Us and them is about as American as as it could be.
I agree. I think the other thing, though, that I get stuck on with people being so outraged or considering
Yeah.
him dangerous, I'm like, first of all, he started when he was 18 years old.
Uh-huh.
I certainly would not have had the wherewithal to do what he did at 18. So kudos to him for doing it. But then even when he died at 31, I think of where was I at 31? And could I have articulated things or even had the caring to go, to go out and address a hostile college environment because he believed something was missing there.
Hmm.
Um, so I see that as and again, words for me, I have a hard time labeling them as dangerous. Um,
Tell me more about that because before you
sure,
answer that,
sure. Hmm.
because um, when I think about words as dangerous,
Hmm.
I think that there are certainly possibilities in which words can be dangerous. So, for instance,
Hmm.
uh, if you're in a crowded room and you yell fire,
Of course, that's fair. I'm not
yeah,
gonna, I mean, for me, that's
right.
unless you, and I think that's exactly the way the First Amendment, unless you incite violence,
So so okay, well, that's
it's a
interesting.
call.
Okay, yeah, no. Believe
Yeah.
me, you're not. I'm not putting you on trial here.
No. Yeah. And
I
I
hope
know
you
you
don't
can
feel
get,
that way.
no, I don't. I don't. And I
Okay,
think
good.
we should, the devil is always in the details. So we do need to get down into the nuances.
Yeah, yeah, right. And
Hmm.
so, when I hear, a statement of like he was asked the question, do you know how many trans yeah, I can speak. Do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years? And his response was too many. That ends up well, no, there's assumption on my part, but that can send a message that, oh, these folks are dangerous. And let me finish.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It also goes against the data that exists that, mass shooters overwhelmingly, just the reality of it is that they are white, straight, young men.
Hmm.
That's just the
Hmm.
reality of it. Um, Mass shootings are horrible, and there's lots of reasons
Hmm.
why, no one just gets up someday and says, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to go shoot up a school or whatever the case may be. Um, uh, there's things that have led to especially young men doing that.
Hmm.
So like when I hear a statement like this, or one of the, you know, he had a statement about the great replacement theory not being a
Not familiar with
theory,
that
but
one.
it's a reality, is what he said. That's the quote. Um, that that when I hear that,
Hmm.
what I hear is a very much an us and them type of thing. It's a put fear into folks about other groups of people, that this this is why we end up with certain laws that get passed. This is what has, when slavery ended, well, then what came in its place was the Jim Crow laws, and this
Hmm.
continuation of things, and then segregation and all sorts of stuff like that. So when I hear, and let me, and I know this there's like nuance in this, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
so and I don't know if it's, I think there's also a difference between when a politician who has an impact, direct impact on laws and policies,
Hmm.
makes statements versus a public figure. At the same time, those public figures have an impact. There's influence. He obviously had an influence, no different than other
Hmm.
folks who have an influence on people. Um, I don't know. I don't know if there was a question in there or not. It was,
Yeah, I think we were you were pushing back a little bit on me on the I don't see words as dangerous, and you
yeah,
were
yeah. So
giving me
tell me.
some examples for you of how words can be dangerous. And it's so we could, so too many is subjective. So
Sure.
bring Charlie, for me, that's the, let's duke this out. I would have debated him on that one.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong. And I would have done it in Charlie Kirk style with this is what I see, if
Sure.
that's
Sure.
how I felt about it. So his words for me again aren't dangerous. If I believe in my own ideas and I believe that what I'm bringing is the truth, then I am going to be able to reasonably and logically argue my point of view. And whether I change his mind or not,
Sure.
I am not, I'm responsible for my own conscience and my
Yeah.
own, I can't control Charlie Kirk and I
Sure.
can't
Oh, of
control
course
what
not.
he believes. So, if what
Yeah.
I brought, and I think he was reasonable. So I've seen him change his position. I think I saw him sometimes people brought and he's like, oh, I've changed course on that. And I think that he would. But do I think that Charlie Kirk was um, not locked and loaded on what he believed and had done the reading and could support his
Sure.
theories? Yeah, and I think certain people saw that as confrontational. I would describe that as well prepared. And if you're going to come with the other side, it,
Yeah.
you gotta believe in your idea.
Sure.
That's the whole. From my point, that's what our country was founded on.
So before we continue on,
Hmm.
I should have done this about 10 minutes ago, but
Okay.
short interlude for a moment here
Okay.
to take a moment of personal privilege to mention a couple things close to my heart
Okay.
that I try since I don't have sponsors. I get to be my own sponsor. Uh, so first is Christ Lutheran Church in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I serve as the pastor. It's more than a congregation; it's a healing community with 3 free health clinics that have welcomed over 100,000 visits since 2018. And if you want to be part of something beautiful, something healing, you can check us out at christharrisburg.org. Second is the Memorial Blanket Project. I've talked about this every year. People from all over the place make blankets for strangers. They don't make strangers, they make blankets for strangers. And we turn them into a massive art installation that draws attention on homelessness. And then we gift every blanket to someone in need at the end of the night. And we've done this on the Capitol lawn, the West lawn, in front of the Liberty Bell. And in this year, we're heading out to Denver. You can learn more at memorialblanket.org. And finally, if you're wrestling with the topic that we were talking about before, which is gun violence, people can check out American Roulette. It's a novel that sparks honest conversations, follows the lives of 8 characters over the course of a day until a mass shooting happens. We don't offer any solutions in the book. The point is to get people to have conversation about gun violence and to especially see the importance of the humanity in the midst of it, whether we're talking about the humanity of the victims, the community, the responders, and the perpetrator. There's a lot of humanity, and oftentimes we end up getting into these abstract debates. And that's not going to stop gun violence from happening. So you can find that wherever good books are found. You can also download the free audiobook of American Roulette, which is at americanroulettebook.com. So free for people to listen. The whole point is to get people to listen and have a conversation about something that's really tough and have a format in which to do that. So, all right, now back to our show. Thanks for indulging me in that,
Yeah.
Angela. I appreciate that. Um, so, and we got about 15 minutes or so left. And this, first of all, this has been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate you doing
I
the.
hope it's going and if you have any questions that we're not hitting,
No, no, this
fire
this
away.
is, this is good because
Okay.
we're hitting those. So I want to give you another opportunity. Ask me a question if you want to do that
Um,
because I've asked you a lot of questions. So
yeah. No, I think I have your perspective on things, so we'll go down what you wanted to cover for the podcast.
okay, so let me ask you this question because
Hmm.
I had mentioned the idea of congruency.
Hmm.
And I think you addressed this a little bit
Okay.
when you were talking about the idea of the larger picture, and you're
Hmm.
talking about kind of, there's certain statements that have been made, but they don't seem to fit into his larger,
Hmm.
I don't know, whatever you want to call it, personality,
Hmm.
belief system. I don't know, whatever it is. So when you hear some of these statements, or you've read them, or you've been exposed to them in some way,
Hmm.
and you have that, how do you um, I don't know what the right way of asking this. Like there's what Charlie would talk about as far as his Christian faith,
Hmm.
and um, he, like a statement that he had. I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. Most important thing is my faith.
Okay.
It's a great statement, no doubt, right? That's
Hmm.
from a podcast interview that he had. Um, he said, I believe in the Bible and I believe that Christ rose from the dead on the third day. This is the foundation of my faith and guides my actions.
Hmm.
Incredible statement. Absolutely. It's something that every pastor would wish their congregates to say, right? And so, especially with that statement, again, I'm in one sense, I'll admit that here I am, I'm cherry picking statements, right? I mean, because we also are limited on time.
Sure. Yep.
Uh, and then you hear like some of the other statements,
Hmm.
whether it's about race or about LGBTQ issues, the Great Replacement theory, whatever else. Uh, when I hear those statements, and I hear like the other Christian statements,
Okay.
I I hear an incongruency, but part of that is also how I'm defining Christianity. I'm
I agree.
recognizing
And
how I
that's a huge topic. I
right,
mean,
right. I know we only got like 12 minutes,
right.
so
I
like
mean,
that's like the presidential debates, and they're like, Social Security is going to go insolvent in X number of years. You got 30 seconds to give us an answer. So I know that's not
yeah, yeah.
exactly fair either. And again,
But
I know,
I'll try to give you my quick
yeah,
response to
sure,
that.
that's fine.
Um, so for me, I don't really, it's not really a congruency for me when I look at things in full context. And one of the things I jotted down, because I go back to this a lot, um, when I look at First Corinthians 13, 4 through 7, I
Uh,
probably walk away from that. I'm going to guess a lot differently than you do. I like love in the not sentimental form.
yeah, sure.
And this was one of the quote, I go back whenever I try to, get a little, and I do it, make Jesus too sentimental
But you
or
might want to be careful because I will tell you that I don't necessarily that's not a wedding verse.
I know,
So
absolutely. I
so
absolutely
I don't
agree
see
with
it
that.
as
I agree. So,
I'm happy to
but
share what I think about it, but
okay. And maybe we do align, but for me, it rejoices with the truth and not merely with harmony. So it's not sentimental tolerance, it's principled fidelity to what is right. Um, and so I have two things that whenever I feel myself kind of moving into sentimentality, there's a great old black and white, The Gospel According to Matthew, done by Pasolini, an Italian guy.
okay.
Um, and if it's ever how did the other world or someone from another part of the world read the gospel or see the gospel? That's a and there is no sentimental Jesus in that thing.
Sure.
None. Um, and then there's another quote that I read like 15 years ago,
Yeah.
and I still pull it out. And I've given it to all my kids on bookmarks. And this is just a blurb from it. There's a little more, but um, tolerance used to mean people of strong conviction would willingly put up peacefully with people they regarded as plainly in error. Now it means people of weak convictions facilely agreeing that others are also right, and any way of the truth doesn't make much difference as long as everyone is nice.
Hmm.
Um, my kids will firmly attest to you that I'm the nice is overrated.
Well, I would agree with that statement. That's for sure. Yeah.
So
I've preached that we're not called to be nice.
okay.
I think
So
that's
maybe we agree on more than I
well,
thought, but for
well,
me it is
I
I'm
think
not.
nice is part of the reason why churches are in decline.
I
Um,
agree. I
uh,
agree. I think
th-
we've,
there's there's
uh,
there's but maybe and I guess maybe this is part of again definitions.
yes, agreed.
Right.
Agreed.
I think there's a
So,
lot of suburban uh, churches that try to be nice um, because being part of a group is really important. I mean,
mhm,
there's psychology behind this, right?
mhm,
That social identity
yeah,
is people would rather physically die than have their social identity die.
yeah. Hmm.
That was right out of what the book I'm just finishing reading right now is How Minds Change. It's a
I do
great
always
book.
like to ask people what books
Yeah,
they're reading.
it's fascinating. It's
How
it's not
minds
about
change.
yeah how minds change. It's not
Yeah.
about changing minds, right?
Okay.
It's really the science behind how minds change.
Okay.
And there's different methods that are talked about in that, and there's going to be some that you probably don't like. But the guy is really the author is really trying to understand, but why does this work? And
Who's
that's
the author?
uh, hmm,
No.
you're gonna have to
If you don't
Google
know.
it. I don't
Yeah,
have it
that's
right in
fine.
front of me. I wasn't expecting to talk about it. So, um, anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. Tell me, so you mentioned the other video, Bishop Barron,
Bishop Barron. Yeah.
of
So
which
I'm a
I,
huge Bishop Barron fan. Full disclosure on that.
yeah, that's fine. And I've watched some of his videos.
Okay.
He's obviously, as far as Catholic clergy go, he's probably the most um, uh, and I don't know how to put it, probably the best spokesperson
The thing
for a
that I
view of
appreciate, and this is what I look at in all my folks, do
yeah,
both the right and the left
yeah,
criticize
sure.
him,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they do. So
Yeah, sure.
that that
Yeah.
that strikes validity for me.
He obviously has a gift
Yeah. Yeah.
for public speaking. I mean,
Yes.
number
Yeah.
one, he's a bishop
Yeah.
and a priest, so that's part of the deal. And he's very well studied and whatnot. And we would probably have some theological differences, but that's why I'm Lutheran. And
Right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
used to be Roman Catholic, by the way. Uh,
That's very funny because I grew up Lutheran and I'm in the process
oh, there
now
you
of
go.
going to Catholicism. But I
Okay.
always say it was, you know, Lutheran is Catholic adjacent.
It's close. I mean, Martin Luther was Catholic too,
I
and
know.
so
Yeah.
anyway. So tell me just briefly about the video. What was
So
Bishop Barron talking about?
I think that video was a sermon that he did, but he
Okay.
also wrote an article called He Died with a Microphone in His Hand.
Okay.
But essentially, his thing was he died doing something our country was founded on.
Okay.
That our founding fathers, if you look at the old pictures and dynamics of how we were duking out our initial, because we had founding fathers with very, very, very different
Oh yeah.
ideas. And
Sure.
we had to somehow,
Right.
and I think, Bishop Barron is talking about, and I like a lot of Orthodox guys as well. And there's a
Sure.
guy, Jonathan Peugeot, that does a lot
Uh-huh.
on symbolism. And it's the symbolism of this is, you know, it's sort of, and I didn't really do a great job at it in articulating why the words alone aren't dangerous.
Sure.
It's
That's okay.
you can get a lot of
Again, you're not on trial
Jonathan
here, so don't worry
Jonathan
about
Peugeot does a much better job than I do. But at any rate, you know, it's we the bad reaction to it from us is we feel like there's something fundamental dying in our culture when we
it.
can't have these really hard conversations, agree to disagree, and come back. So again, I didn't like Charlie didn't have a gun, he didn't have a knife. All he armed himself with was words. And you could freely bring your words, your argument, your persuasion, your data, your logic, your reason, um, and do exactly what our founding fathers did. Duke it out till you came to something or walk away disagreeing. But when we resort to violence is when
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
Interesting.
fear we all have of, oh my gosh, if I think this way, am I going to be killed?
Yeah.
Because I don't think like you think or he thinks.
Mhm.
And I don't think Charlie was forcing anyone to, i.e., attend his events to be, if they didn't agree with him or they knew something controversial, it was a free come debate me if you want, and if you don't. Um, but I do hear what you're saying with the public platform. I think Charlie would stand behind what he said because I think he fully believed in it.
Yeah, I have no doubt that I think he was a true believer in what he talked about.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
uh,
And I think that you know, he was well read and he had done his work that he could, support why he believed what he did. He wasn't coming with, he was very well read in some of the classics and the classic traditions of debate. So,
okay,
yeah.
that's fair enough.
But yeah, Bishop Barron kind of goes down the same road of it's the best of Western civilization
Gotcha.
debate.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll take a look at it when I, I
Yeah. If
apologize.
you're
I
not
didn't get a
interested in
chance.
the video, the article,
I did
I
read the
think
article.
Bishop Barron also
Oh,
did an
gotcha.
article. Yeah. He died with a microphone in his hands.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
so there's both.
Gotcha. All right.
Did you like that article? Did you find anything
It
in there?
it was interesting. So
Okay.
I will
I'm
tell you,
curious.
I was reading it and it only got about 5 minutes, so we're gonna go through
Yeah.
this quick. I was reading it, and what I found was I think the chart is too simplistic, which is probably the author would probably agree with that. My takeaway from that. Um,
I agree. Because
I
that was a distillation.
of course, right? I mean, anytime we try to chart things, it
Hmm.
ends up simplifying things. I also think that several of the areas that the author put in do not fit into his definition or into the definition of what classical liberalism is.
Okay.
Uh, I think part of this is also a little bit of creating a bit of a straw man uh, against what his view of progressivism is.
Mm,
So, like, especially towards the end, when you're getting into sexual ethics, unborn, transgenderism, marriage, those
hmm
type of things, classical liberalism is a focus on the individual and not having the state dictate things. And so when there are laws that dictate things that goes against classic liberalism, that's a very quick
Yeah.
summary.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Kind
was
of
just curious your
in the same,
overall
yeah.
general. Yeah.
I
Fair enough.
I I
It is. They're
heard
big discussions, not
Oh,
easy to have.
absolutely. I heard what the author is saying.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get bogged down into
Yeah.
details.
Sure.
He's making the argument that Charlie Kirk is in a tradition that has been very much a part of America, with kind of what I heard you talking about, the
Yeah.
idea
Hmm.
of public debate. I mean, that's the essence of what I heard you talk about
Yes.
is you saw value, and maybe this is the last question then, because I know I got like 2 minutes, is often public figures end up becoming something more than just who they are, but a symbol of something. And so, in just a couple of words, and that's not fair, what would that symbol be if for you, as far as what Charlie Kirk was? Does that make sense?
Sure. Um, we know I heard him say that, if he could define what he wanted to be remembered for, I think his symbol, and I would see him this way too, traditional values, bringing people back to God, um, honest and meaningful debates on college campuses.
All right. Well, Angela, thank you so much. This has
Sure.
been a really enjoyable conversation.
Yeah.
I appreciate you willing to come on to uh, uh, to answer my questions,
Sure.
to to get some pushback and
Sure.
be okay with that, and to ask your
Absolutely.
questions. I
Yeah.
appreciate the questions that you ask as well, because I think it's important. It's the questions that allow us to really examine what do we believe and why do we believe it, and those type of things. My last question for you is, did I live up to what I had said?
Impolite. Oh, you're,
Just the point was not to convince or
oh yeah,
anything.
absolutely. No.
Okay, good.
But
I think that's important.
no,
I
yeah,
want-
no,
oh,
absolutely. And I appreciate what you're trying to do with this because that is why I wanted to do it. I think,
right.
when the dialogue shuts down, bad things happen. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Good. Well, thank
one
you.
last thing I
Yeah, go
would
ahead.
plug though, I know we're
Yeah,
over,
it's all
but
right.
have you ever watched the professor from Penn State that live streams SOC 119?
No, I haven't. I'll have to check them
Great.
out.
Yeah, really great. And he's actually like he's an atheist, so he doesn't come at this from
Sure.
any political, but he was really bothered by the Charlie Kirk assassination and
Oh, yeah.
great discussion with the students. Really appreciated
Oh, that's
that.
interesting. Do you
Yeah,
know the professor's
I can
name?
send you the link because I've
Okay,
sent it to a
that
few
would be
other
great.
people. I found it so interesting.
And I will say, after the Charlie Kirk assassination,
Hmm.
I was at a very much a low point in my faith in humanity.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was
uh, for a variety of reasons,
hmm
but a whole plethora of reasons.
yeah.
I definitely will look forward to
He
listening.
has some really honest conversations and
I'm
at the
sure.
college level. So
Okay. Well, thank you again, Angela. I really do
you're welcome.
appreciate you coming on and sharing your perspective, and entertaining my questions. Um,
Absolutely.
so with that, I just hope everyone has a great week. And again, you can listen to some of the past episodes. Just look for Impolite Company. Otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful and blessed holiday season. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.